Well, welcome, welcome, welcome back to the Awakening Potential Show. It's your gateway to the extraordinary. I'm your host, Karen Rudolf, and I'm here to support you in stepping into your sassy confidence, your classy wisdom, and your badassy brilliance. Because awakening your potential isn't just a moment, it's a movement. And here we dive into powerful stories, soul stirring tools, and game changing strategies that spark transformation in your life, in your work, and the world around you. So grab a notebook, open your heart, and let's light that inner spark. Today, I'm beyond excited to introduce someone who truly embodies the journey. Our guest, Cristina Candullo-Dody. She's a founder of the first virtual sorority in the world. How exciting! I can't wait to hear about that. A founding board member of a charity called Illuminate, which supports individuals who have been trafficked. And she's a planner of knighting investiture, which led her into event planning as a producer and film producer within the film and events planning. And also a best-selling author, along with me in the book Essence of a Woman, which is available on Amazon. Christina, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
It's been a while coming, but I'm so grateful you took the time. Thank you. I know you and Tony have a very busy schedule, so thank you so much for taking the time. I'm curious, as we all are here, obviously, to awaken a potential. What was it that you would say awoke your potential? Like, what was that moment in time that you felt like you knew who you were and you going for it?
That is a really good question. And I want to say there was never a defining moment. For me, it was gradual.
Mhm.
When I was younger, I was bullied very badly, you know, throughout my whole childhood, which a lot of people are. And it's probably worse for kids nowadays because, they never leave it. There's social media.
Exactly.
And back when I was a kid, there was no such thing as social media. I mean, let alone Windows was new. You know, everybody knows Windows operating system.
Yeah.
So, as I began to get old, as I aged, I guess you can say,
Got
um,
wiser. Got wiser, darling.
got wiser. I would notice different things. And I have to say, a lot of that came from listening to advice. As a kid, I had no friends really. I had maybe one or two, but I really didn't have a lot of friends. And I was a bit awkward, as a lot of kids are. And I decided that I wanted to be different. And I realized that sorry, I have, say hi to Belly. Hi,
Hi,
Belly. She's interrupting. You want to go
Becky. How
down?
cute.
We're dog sitting.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So, as I started to realize that perception is power and you have control over the way people perceive you, I started to change the way I was, in order to be perceived the way I wanted to. And as time went on, I started discovering more and more about myself, what I like, you know, began to grow confidence. A lot of that, my husband had a big hand in that, helping me gain confidence. Although confidence shouldn't be relied on another person, but you could always have someone assist you, right? You want to find confidence from within yourself.
Exactly.
And it was a process for me, and it still is an ongoing process. No, and no one's perfect. Even the people that you look, celebrities on TV, they all have those things that they're still working on. And as long as you keep working on it and you keep improving, I think that's how you awaken potential, is that you never stop improving.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember being the doormat and also getting bullied. I was bullied in a school. I went to school in Brooklyn, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
And I'll never forget it. And I'm a little older than you are, but there was a blackout in '69. I'll never forget it. And my mother was working for Medgar Evers College, which is an all-black college there. And she said, my kids are still going to school. I don't care. And she put us into, I don't even remember what PS it was, but we were probably, my sister and I were probably the only white face in the whole school. And I remember getting gang banged in the bathroom for my 25 cents. And I had no friends, nobody would talk to me. It was very intimidating because I was a shy kid and, I was like, I'm friendly with everybody. So I couldn't understand that difference. But I love the fact that, you also said, what I heard you say was, you also, needed to gain that more of your self-confidence. I think self-confidence, I agree with you wholeheartedly, definitely comes from within. But I like to think that there are special people in our life. In your case, your husband, in my case, it was a relationship that I had later on. I like to think of them as the wind beneath my wings, and I'm that for them. So it's a dual, we all bring something different to the table and we're all growing all and expanding all the time. So kudos, I think it's awesome. And, I know Tony's not here right now, but you two have such a special relationship that as an observer point of view, and I know you all have been together for a long time, seeing that wind beneath each other's wings is just amazing to be witness to. So really, kudos and congratulations for that. That's very rare
Thank
to
you.
find today. Yeah.
Thank you. It actually took a lot to get there. People don't realize, in everything, people see you when you're successful. People see you when you're doing good, or, you know, often they don't see the struggles that got you there. And
Exactly.
we had to overcome a lot together in order to be where we are now. And there's no marriage that doesn't have its struggles, even when it's doing good.
Exactly. But the
you
struggles
know
also make us stronger too, don't they? Because it's
they
like a
do.
roller coaster. You gotta like go down, go up and go down and go up and down. And that's part of life, right? That's life, whether you're with a significant other or not. Yeah, part of
Exactly.
life is really learning from those experiences and growing together. And from the outside looking in, you look like you've grown really well together. I'll have some of
We
that.
practically grew up together.
Which is, it's cool, especially in this day and age. It's really something to be commended, commending because so many relationships now are like disposable. For me, I look at them as disposable relationships. Oh, it doesn't work. Swipe left. I don't even know you swipe left. You know, I,
It's true. It's very transactional, it feels like nowadays.
yeah,
And there's less value put on family. There's less family values today.
yeah,
And it's, you know, and maybe this is controversial, but, most women now are doing a man's job. So a lot of women don't even want to get married anymore,
I know,
you
truly,
know,
yeah,
because they feel like they're better off alone. And they just, but, a marriage is a partnership. You can't have everyone doing the same thing, just like in a company. I mean,
exactly,
if you have a company, if everyone was the CEO, nothing would ever get done, right? There needs
exactly,
to be a complement.
yeah,
One person works on one thing and the other person works at another. You come together and make goals happen. So, that those values, unfortunately, especially where we live, Florida, is a very go-getter state, especially South Florida. A lot of young, ambitious people, and
absolutely.
everybody's, trying to impress the next one. But it's superficial, unfortunately. The authenticity has a lot to do with that as well.
Excuse me. Absolutely. And I think that's the key word of
Yeah.
authenticity and really, and you mentioned earlier as well, it's really getting to know yourself. I always go back to, excuse me, one sec.
Oh, no, you're okay. Air conditioning makes it dry.
Florida. I'm in Florida too, and I feel very
Yeah.
dry today. It should be humid. I feel very dry today. Anyway, authenticity, it's biblical as well as I remember in the play Hamlet that Shakespeare wrote, and I want to say it was 1533. He quotes at one point, "To thine own self be true," and I believe the more we know ourselves, the more authentic we can be, the more confident can be, and as I said earlier, it's that classy wisdom which we gain with it, right? And you've gained it, so you know,
Work
um,
on it every day.
oh, we are. Hey, I'm still, working on it and expanding every day. And, I think that's where curiosity really has um, served me well over the years because I'm extremely curious. And if I don't know something, it's like, what is that? Let's go find out kind of thing. And sometimes it can be a little nerve-wracking, but,
That's
let's
actually a
go back
really
to you.
good sign of
Let's go back.
intelligence, curiosity.
Yeah, it is. But my dad used to tell me when I was young, shut up and go out and play. And he would like poo-poo me off. Well, what are you telling a young child who doesn't know
Right.
what they don't know? I mean, the subliminal conversation that I was being told by the father who I looked up to and had on a pedestal at that age was basically I wasn't worthy. I was already coming from the non-worthy from my mom. And then hearing my dad say that it was like, go away, you're not important enough. And it's like, God, now I know at this age that he was just inundated with my questions, but it wasn't that I was stupid or anything like that, but I used to tell myself and believe it. In human nature, we look for evidence to say this is real and make it real. And, so that's a lot of many people's angst. But obviously, you went on and you became a co-founder of a virtual sorority, first in the world. Let me guess, COVID was.
Believe it or not, before COVID, I'll tell you my side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So our CEO really did a lot of the legwork, but what happened in my personal journey to this is I had started going back. I had gone to school right after high school. I wanted to be an astronomer. My plan was to go to Cornell. I'm very book smart, hence part of the reason why I was bullied as a kid. Not because I was book smart, but because I was socially awkward. And usually, um, I found out later in life, like maybe the past year or two, that I have all these, um, initials, I like to say, undiagnosed initials and
I hear.
things, which completely explain so much of my childhood, by the way. And
Yeah,
women are sorely undiagnosed. I
yeah,
mean, to an extreme degree.
yeah, yeah.
I'm starting to suspect I might have a slight bit of autism, mixed with ADHD, which would explain the social awkwardness and how I literally learned as I was became older, learned how to interact socially. So that's a big part of being bullied,
Mhm.
because nobody knows that. So because I was so book smart, I really wanted to go to Cornell for astronomy. I would have gone, but it would have cost me 60,000 a year. And I'm the oldest of seven, and Irish triplets. So my parents, and they were young when they had me. So my parents did not save for my college education. They barely, were able to afford a house for us, at the time. Now they're doing wonderful. But when they were young, like most young parents, they just didn't have those means. And if they did it for me, then they would have had to do it for seven other kids.
Right.
So I decided I could have, there's not, especially back then, there's not a lot of scholarships for, you know, white women specifically. You know what I mean? Especially by the time it was time for me to go to college, we were considered middle class. So it couldn't go on financial means. Like there was no way to really get a scholarship unless I got exceptional. And I was exceptionally smart. but there were also kids that were more smart than me that were getting those scholarships.
Right.
So I would have had an in, and then NASA lost it. This is going too long, this part of the story, but NASA lost its funding, to make a long story short. And I decided, I know college is a business. I'm not going to pay 60,000 a year to go to college to come out making maybe 30. It just doesn't make financial sense.
Right,
So I didn't know
exactly.
what I wanted to do, and I was like, I'm just going to go to community college. Went to community college for 2 years just to get rid of like the regular stuff and figure out what I wanted to do, because it didn't matter at that point.
Right.
Decided from that point on I wanted to be a meteorologist, but my credits wouldn't transfer.
Uh,
And I was like, boy, and I couldn't, I was paying, on credit cards for my college education. My parents would not allow me to get student loans. So I was
so
just
much.
like, yeah, it's because back then you couldn't get a student loan off your credit report. So they were afraid that if I defaulted on a loan, it would never leave me. So they were trying to protect me.
Yeah.
Unknowingly, I was paying 30% interest on these credit cards for college, but whatever, So by the time I figured that out, I was just like, I can't afford this, right? Years go by, I have a job, I'm able to go to school, and there's a lot that happened in between, which is why there was such a gap in education. And I decided I'm going to finish my business degree to just get it done, even because that's what I ended up going to community college for, because I didn't know what to go for.
Right.
And I was like, let's just finish it. And I said, I'm going to go to the best school I can possibly go to virtually, because I couldn't go physically. And I said, what is the best business school I can go to? And there was 2 or 3 that I had, and I applied to all 3, and then I ended up choosing Penn State, which was the best virtual school I could go to. And
Absolutely.
I did a lot of research. Um, so while I was there, I was looking for student support, and there wasn't a lot of virtual student support. Like there was like student organizations for like helping people online virtually, but it wasn't like the support you really need. It was like reach out to them if you have a question kind of thing. It wasn't like
Right.
here's a
Right.
group of women or people, even not just women, who are, cheering each other on, getting together, having even just a club. I looked for clubs. There was nothing. You had to physically be in Pennsylvania, and I could not physically be in Pennsylvania at the time. So I said, when I was in high school, I made an astronomy club. I was like, I wonder if I can make like a sorority, a
Love it.
virtual sorority. The thought entered my head. That's as far as it went. Literally, like a day later, I get an email from this girl, Jana, and it was me and like maybe a few other girls that were in this email telling us about a virtual sorority she wants to create. And it has to, the philanthropy is going to be to help prevent sex trafficking. And we need 10 of us to get this started. And I was
Love
like, I emailed her back. I'm like, how on earth did you get my email? Because first of all, I had just started. I was like, was it my GPA? Was it my interest? Like, she's like, no, it was just random.
never
Talk
any
about the law of attraction. Okay. Like,
Exactly.
it was
Exactly.
the craziest thing. So I was like, I'm in. I want to be a part of this. I will help you in any way you need help. So when asked for volunteers to be a board member and to help put it together, obviously that was what I did. So I was the first treasurer. I picked out the mascot. A lot of the procedures that we do today are because of my thoughts. And at the time, I was in a managerial position, so I had a lot of leadership experience that can help with the processes
Right.
of building and scaling a sorority. So I was able to help with that.
Love it.
Um, she did a lot of the legwork. I don't know how she did it. The woman is a single mom of a special needs child.
Mhm.
She's a paralegal going to school full time at the time. Now she's graduated. But I admire her so much because of how much she's done. And she was already like halfway through the process, by the time I figured out I even wanted to make one. So the natural thing was, instead of, having something that's competition, let's work together and build it. Because that's all I really wanted was, a community to, have support. So that's the story of the sorority from my point of view.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And then the charity, tell us about the charity because this charity still going on today. How many years
Yeah,
later?
it's fairly new. So initially we were donating to Thorn. Thorn is the 501c3 that essentially uses technology to prevent trafficking and find people who traffic. And we were their number one donators for a while, uh, because we eventually expanded to other schools.
Right.
So there was a thing that happened in a lawsuit with Ashton Kutcher. And even though Ashton Kutcher has nothing to do with Thorn, except he was the face at one point,
Right.
all our sorority sisters were upset about it. So we said, well, we eventually wanted to make our own charity anyway, so we might as well start now. It's just, the timing was right. So we decided to start this charity, and the way we position it is select every year a different shelter that we could physically help, because now we know, like, we are where this money is going is not to pay people salaries, but to physically help people in this area. And so we'll get maybe a list from a shelter of all the things they need, raise the money, buy it for them so they don't have to do any of the work, go there, drop it off, and whatever else they may need. Like, we volunteer for the day, which is really nice. It's a really very, I want to say, rewarding experience. It's better than just handing money over to someone, because we get to feel like we're a big part of helping other people better their lives.
Love it. I love that. And talk about awakening potential, right? I mean, that's it. So here's a off the cuff kind of question for you, if you would, if you felt comfortable answering it. Oh, well, who did you have to be in order to create and support your sorority, correct? Creating
Yeah,
this illuminate, like who did you have to be? I mean, you coming from a shy, person and very educated and but who do you feel like had to be inside to step into this role?
I, it's not something that you know, I guess you want to say, when my husband likes to say this a lot, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Okay, yeah.
And as you grow as a human, right, you become who you want to be. And that in turn attracts the, um, I want to say, the opportunities that you are looking for.
Mhm.
So, you know, when I was younger, I was very shy. I've always struggled with people pleasing, um, very easily intimidated, right? As I've gotten older, I've gained confidence, right? But it's not just because I got older, it's because there's intentional changes in myself where I gain confidence. I
Right.
stop people pleasing. I start speaking my mind.
Mhm.
It's when you start saying how you really feel inside and not holding back. And that doesn't mean be blunt or mean or rude. It means, if I'm going to bring you a problem, I'm going to bring you a solution and tell you how I think it can be fixed, or I'm willing to collaborate on a solution. And if it can't be fixed, then I find a way around it, right? Or a way to overcome it.
Right.
And you have to be able to think like that in order to do any of these things. Because I didn't, yeah, I didn't do, like, I'm not, maybe not the one who filled out the paperwork for the charity, but I was there from the very beginning to support it, right? And look to maybe for advice, look to for help. Why? Because what I had to say is valuable. How did they know that? It's because I gave it to them. I said, this is literally what's on my brain. And part of that's authenticity. Authenticity is a very high vibration, so to speak, a frequency. We talk about like good vibes or whatever. When
Yeah.
you're true to yourself, when you're not lying to yourself, because a lot of people think they're authentic, but they're actually lying to themselves. You stop lying to yourself. And we all do it. It's kind of a defense mechanism in a lot of ways for people,
Uh-huh.
but when you recognize, who you are, how you feel, and are true to it, right? And if you don't like something about yourself, you change it. You focus on
Absolutely.
yourself, not being the victim or,
Love that. Yep.
yeah. And that's essentially naturally, as you change, the things that you're presented with change as well.
Yeah,
Hopefully
absolutely.
that answers the question.
No, it did very much so, and very articulately said. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
from there, you became an event planner, right? You're producing events and films now. How has that
Yeah,
been for you? That sounds like an exciting kind of prelude.
super exciting. Um, all these things kind of fell in my lap. So it's funny because I've always been very creative, but it's
Mhm.
unrealized, and maybe not unrealized by me, but untapped into creativity because it's been kind of held back. I had a traditional 9 to 5 job, and creativity wasn't necessarily encouraged as much depending on the position that you're in. So I've always been a visionary, but a little bit of a closet visionary because nobody viewed me as such. And when I was got into a management role in my old corporate job, I went to it wasn't really a class; it was more like a training, but it was kind of classroom style. And it part of it was to learn about yourself, and that's when I discovered that I am a visionary. And there was a room full of maybe 30 to 50 people. I can't really remember, but 4 of us were visionaries, and the other 3 were in management, like upper management, because we were all in management, but the higher levels of management. So I started to try to tap into that. When I was younger, I would always have a love for making what's in my head, like the vision I see, real. And I have a very hard time settling, which serves me well in a lot of ways. Um, but because I don't have a I have a very hard time settling, getting a little tongue tied. Um, it's like for me, it's all or nothing. I love the motto, go big or go home. That is me. Go big or go home.
Right.
When they ask me what size I want at Starbucks, I say go big or go home.
There you go. There you go. I love
So
it.
um, you know, for example, my best friend when I was younger, I had the honor of planning her bridal shower, and I was going to give her the best bridal shower that anyone can ever have.
Love it.
And I accomplished that. And her mother thought I was absolutely out of my mind, but it's because I had this vision. Same thing with my wedding. I would not settle. I had a vision and I made it exactly like what was in my head. So naturally, I had been to I was invited to somebody else's knighting investiture. And because of that invitation, we found out that we had a lot of mutual friends, and we got invited to like 4 in a row and became friendly with the prince who was doing the knighting. For anyone who doesn't know what a knighting investiture is, it's literally when the prince or king or queen of some monarchy is like, give the sword thing. It's like, I
Love
now
it.
pronounce you sir or dame or whatever. That's why there's a Sir Elton John, is because he was knighted by, in this case, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth.
Right.
Um, so this monarchy is uh, the it was from the Roman Empire back in the day, and they were the first one to ever knight anyone. So the friend who originally invited us to her investiture became what's known as a grand prior. And a grand prior is the person who's in charge of putting together a knighting ceremony in a particular area. So, they set it up, and the prince comes and knights whoever it is that got, accepted after being nominated. Well, she was the first
Right.
woman in history. And I had expressed to her in the past how not arrogantly, but I could do this better than what was being done. And I have a strange understanding of royal protocols and elegance. I don't know why. It's not something that, it's just intuitively, I knew that this was not up to par. And I knew how to make it up to par. And I felt inclined to say, I can make this up to par. She had actually felt the same way and has the same inclination, the same thought process as me. And she has been around a lot of royalty, other monarchies. So she was also aware of a lot of protocol. And that got her to say, hey, we're very much on the same page. I want you to plan this knighting investiture, which is a huge honor because, you know, you have to be knighted in order to plan it. You have to be part of that club. And I'm not part of that club. I mean, my friends are, but I wasn't necessarily knighted myself.
Right,
And I planned the best knighting investiture I have ever been to, and I've been to a few, but
right.
I think that they probably ever had in America. And I'm not saying that arrogantly again, but it was just amazing. The prince was incredible. I've never seen the prince so happy. And that was really cool. I mean, that was really cool. Separately, and this is kind of going to tie together, when before we had moved to Florida, my husband was in production of commercials. And, again, I'm a visionary, but I would just help on set. So bring the same skill over into movies. Here you have somebody with a vision who is very good at making what's in their head a reality, right? We already had some knowledge of production from the past. So now you put those two things together of being able to create something and with some production knowledge that's led us into doing now films. My husband does a lot of the distribution, casting, and I will do, the directing, the set creating. It's and seeing what needs to be done to make it look the way it should look and feel the way it should feel to an audience. So it's all
Love it.
about telling a story in every situation. In the one way, you're in person and you're being in an environment that's created for you, and another, you're watching it. And a lot of, just to add this, a lot of what is in my head is actually inspired by Disney, as crazy as that sounds. And Karen, you know this. We love Disney. We're there all the time.
Why I love
And
you guys.
who doesn't? I mean, I know there's people who don't, but listen, the reason why I love Disney World so much, and this is what inspires me, is because you walk in Disney World, you go under that arch that says, the most magical place on earth.
Yeah.
You are on a different planet.
Yeah.
They have taken every one of your senses and completely engulfed it in their world. It's a complete, like, it's literally, talk about a vision. When I'm in Magic Kingdom in particular, I don't care about anything else. There's no such thing. And people will say this, when you're in Disney, there's no budget. Nobody thinks about anything except for that they're having fun in Disney World, that they're seeing the magic. I see grown men cry during the fireworks
Yeah.
because they literally create a frequency, and it is a literal frequency scientifically,
Yeah.
that everybody is in tune to by hitting every sense. The smells, and you won't even notice the smells, but they're there. The
Yeah.
lighting, the sound, the narrative. If you watch any or pay attention to any show that they have,
Yeah.
especially in the parks, or any of the um, just any ride that has like a story to tell, it's
Right.
always about two things. It's about making your dreams come true. You can make your dreams come true. And even for an adult, that hits at the core because there's so many adults with unrealized dreams and unrealized aspirations that they feel deep down in their core that they've just forgotten because of life. And then there's the other narrative of improving life, or moving forward. So you'll see Spaceship Earth. How did we move forward in history and in life? Or you go to the Carousel of Progress. It's the same theme. It's all about in um, not just invention, but um, I'm looking for a specific word that starts with an I and I can't think of it, but you know what I'm talking about. It's literally moving forward in life. And a lot of this really hits at the emotions of people. And that's the idea that I create when I create something in a production, whether it be an event or a film, is I want to invoke emotion. I want you to feel what's what we want you to feel. When you go in the knighting investiture, I want you to feel elegance. I want you to feel, royal. I want you to feel, opulent. When you're looking at a production, want you to feel the emotion of the person that we're talking about. I want you to put yourself in their shoes. I want it to be relatable, you
Right. Yeah.
know? So that's really what inspires me. And like, I can literally feel what I'm creating. And I know if I get emotional, that other people are going to get emotional.
I'm there with you. Empathy, darling.
Thank you.
All over it. Oh, that's so awesome. That's why I guess I've always been attracted to you, but the creativity as a creative problem solver myself. Creativity uses imagination, and Disney is all about imagination and inspiration as well. It
Yeah.
really is used to inspire, which I guess next would be inspiring your best-selling authorship in Essence of a Woman. We're both in it. I don't know what the journey was for you, but it's been really stepping into a different level of essence for me. What has it been for you?
That was, I have to say, it was not something that I wanted. It kind of got thrown on my lap. And I'm not going to say I'm very happy that I did it.
Yeah.
Very happy that I did it. And it kind of brought out another part of me I didn't know that was there. But Dr. Jody approached me with it. And I felt overwhelmed by the idea of writing down a story,
Wow.
honestly. And I really didn't think I had one. Um, I felt like, what story could I possibly tell people? And she's
Yeah.
like, don't worry, you have a story, and I'm going to get that story out of you. So my story originally was going to be about my relationship with my husband, and how we grew to where we are, because a lot of people see us as a power couple. But when I started talking to her first editor, and I was like, I just don't know what to write about. She's like, well, let me help you. And I spoke to her and I started telling her just about my life. And she's like, oh my God, people need to hear this.
That's what I love about writing. Yeah.
Right. Like, and literally like what you had said before we started, like a phoenix rising out of ashes, which oddly enough is that's the mascot I chose for my sorority, which I had given them a bunch, but I was like, I kind of want the phoenix, but these are other ones if you guys don't like that. And they all like, no, we love the phoenix. And also, oddly enough, it's in my family crest, which not
Oh,
everyone has a family crest, but we do, and it's a phoenix.
I love the Phoenix. I actually one of my chapters, another book, was about the Phoenix Rising. And
Yeah.
as a result of that, I really love dragons. Have my little dragon. I can't wait.
Oh, that's cool. Some I'm starting to suspect that dragons are actually dinosaurs, and maybe we have the whole thing wrong.
Well, in a spiritual realm, dragons are all about light keepers, keepers of the
Oh, cool.
yeah. So they're really good karma, very good karma, and I very much attract. But then again, I'm one who likes alligators too. So go figure, because they look like little dinosaurs for me, But
They do. I honestly, if there was a dragon, I'd want it to be like toothless. I
I
love
just,
toothless.
I want to go see that movie.
I love that movie.
I do too. There's a new one coming out this week.
I can't wait for it. I'm very excited for that movie.
I know.
So,
Well, I'll be down next week. Maybe we could go and see it together if you want, because my kids
oh
are
yeah, if you're
gone. I
still
don't get to
here,
see those.
definitely. I absolutely love that movie. That was when I saw that movie as a cartoon, and I was an adult when it came out. I was like, this movie's fantastic. Like, I bought it. My brother stole it from me because he wanted to see it over and over again. He was a kid,
Right,
and
right.
I was like, I have to buy a new one. But that's when there was DVDs. Now I can watch it whenever I want.
There you go. There you go. This has been fabulous. But before we part, I always ask this question. What is, I like to call them pearls. What is one pearl of wisdom that you can leave the listening audience with that might make a difference in their world?
Oh boy, this is a big one. So I'm going to give two, but they kind of relate. And we didn't really talk about a lot about
Okay.
struggles that I've been through, but I've been through a lot, like more than probably most people. But also, I mean, there's plenty of people who probably had it, and I know had it way worse than even I did. But there's two things that I always reminded myself that got me through for anyone who is struggling and wants to move forward. Always have hope. Hope will get you through, and always have a knowing. I know things will work out because there is no other choice. I don't give another choice. When I want something that badly, I know that it will happen because I am not giving myself another option. It's that or nothing. And I always have hope that things will change because everything is temporary. That's the second part of what I want to say. Everything in life is temporary, good or bad. So if it's good, we can keep making it better the best that we can. And if it's bad, just know that you'll get through it on the other side because it's temporary. So those things, when I was going through a really hard time, are the things that kind of kept me going every day, knowing that things will always move and get better, and that I knew that there was no other choice but success, no other choice but to succeed. So hopefully those are a couple of good
Beautiful. Yeah, very much.
pearls.
Yeah, awesome. I've been collecting pearls for years, so this is just sort of morphed into this. And I used to have a Facebook Pearls of Wisdom site, and I'm almost, I might actually have to, re-up that one because it got a lot of traction back in the day. But like, life happens, and I dropped the ball on that one. But it was so much fun collecting quotes and pearls like this, because for me, these are pearls that when I remember my grandmother used to have a necklace of pearls, and pearls are pretty rare to find a really nice pearl, a quality pearl, right? So
Right.
pearls last forever. So what is that quality thing we speak of that's going to make a difference in people's life, awaken potential, and last forever? So I always ask that question. So thank you for being a
Uh,
part of it, Christina.
Absolutely.
It was such
That's
a
a beautiful question.
uh, I might ask more another day, but because I love that, right? But thank you so much for being a part of the show, taking the time and sharing your journey and insights with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. It's a very your show is very natural and authentic, I will say.
I attempted, your story is so beautiful, and it's a great reminder that transformation actually begins the moment we become aware and
Yeah.
continues to grow and transform not just yourself but those as listeners as well. I believe that because it becomes the moment we become aware, as I say, and it continues for those brave badassy steps that we choose to take for our
Yeah.
listening audience. So did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
No, no, I was agreeing.
So for the listening audience, remember the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps of change and big leaps of faith. So you are more powerful than you know. So keep showing up for you. Keep rising and keep awakening your potential. If today's episode sparked interest in you, Christina's information will be in the show notes. So if you'd like to connect with her, if you would like more information, or if I may be of support to you, DM me or write the word awaken below, or visit www.tranquilsolutions.com and book your clarity call now. I'd love to have that conversation with you. Until next time, stay sassy, stay classy, and bring your bold, assy self forward. Bye for now.